without further ado, let me ask the panelists to join the stage. First, Mr. Kulkarni. A little applause, a little sound of encouragement. From CC Finland. Next on the list, we have Mr. Strum, Edward Strum. A little applause from Hofstede. Next on the list, we have John Owo. I hope I got the name right. From Spider. Please join us. And last but not the least, Mr. Obiaha from Ventures Platform. Please join us on stage. So the idea of this panel is really to dig into innovation and learning and what it means, especially in the Nigerian context. And of course, we, in many cases here, building or bringing the Nordic approach to this. We have a few questions I will present to the panelists. First of all, they will tell a bit about themselves and about their company or organization. But the idea is really to engage the audience and have an interactive session, as the last one was also. So there should be enough room and enough time for question and answers. So I will allow the panelists to start. So I think we can start in the same manner as we came in. So hopefully, Mr. Kulkarni. So please tell us a bit, about yourself, about your experience in Nigeria, and of course, what CC Finland is doing and planning to do. Thank you. Thanks.
Hello, good afternoon. It's after lunchtime, so I guess we need to have some energy for listening. And in Finland, we generally drink coffee so that we can be awake always. Okay, my name is Hiram Kulkarni. I head the strategy and ICT development at the Council for Creative Education Finland. As you can see that I am not a Finn. I am an Indian by origin, but settled in Finland since last 15 years. I stay in a very beautiful city called Tampere. It's 200 kilometers above Helsinki, along with my wife and my 2 kids. And in the field of education, we work as an educator as well as trainer, and we work with universities to develop different programs for the EU as well as worldwide programs. When I say that I have 2 kids, so in short, I am in Finland. I am also working in education, but also I am a customer of education as well as a parent. So here I will give the comments on both the sides. As an outsider staying in Finland and as well as insider, how to find the things. What is the magic of Finnish education? That's what I will be talking about. As far as the Council for Creative Education is concerned, we work in the field of creative pedagogy, creative learnings. What does that mean is that we work with the teachers, schools, private schools as well as government schools across the globe, and we train them to develop the creative learning methods and learning environment. So we have our training programs. Some of them are online, some of them are in person, and as well as we travel, me and my team travels to more than 20 countries every year to conduct these programs, and as well as we conduct the educational visits to Finland. So people from across the globe, educators, teachers, they visit Finland and we host them for the visit to the school, pre-primary schools, to the vocational schools and so on. So, and we are very much connected in Nigeria because for last 3 years we are working with the subebs, different subebs in Sokoto state, in Kaduna state, Rivers state, and as well as Lagos for some programs, and most of the subeb chairmen have visited Finland with us. That's been great. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bukani. So next, Mr. Egbert from Hofstede Insights, first time in Nigeria. I think that sounds of rounds of applause. So please tell us a bit about yourself and of course what Hofstede Insights is planning to do in Nigeria.
Thank you all. So, like my neighbor, I'm also not a Finn, I'm Dutch. I've been living in Finland for the last 13 years, also married to a Finn, also a customer of education with 2 kids. This is the first time for me in Nigeria, and that also comes with a happy message and a proud message for myself, because today is the day that I can formally announce the opening of our Lagos office. So, very, very, very nice that I can share this news with you. So what does our office do? What does Hofstede Insights do? And what's our relationship to education? We're a global consultancy company, so we assist companies, organizations, institutions, governments in understanding and visualizing the impact that culture has on, for example, learning. Now, earlier today there was a lot of words on culture, but culture is related to values. And what we try to bring to Nigerian companies in particular is to understand that if you want to have a learning organization, you as an organization will also have to contribute to Nigeria as a whole to value education. And that starts at primary age. That starts with the role you as a parent have. That starts with the role you as a leader have. If you state that learning is important, also in your organization, my question to you will be, how much time do you as a leader spend learning? And this radiates through in everything a country that is geared towards developing the great potential it has. And as Nigeria, you have great potential. You're the biggest economy in Africa. Lagos is the 5th biggest economy. You've got a passion to move and to dance. And I think for you to really explore the potential that you have, it starts with learning. And that starts with you. How do you encourage your kids to learn? Are they allowed to make mistakes? Because learning happens by making mistakes. Innovation happens by making mistakes. The world's biggest innovations came from mistakes. So part of what I'll be talking about and some of the questions I might answer will, in order to help you look forward, how do I bring my organization forward, how do I bring my country forward, we need to dive back. Because we start development by raising our kids. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your answers. I hope it will not be the first and last time we will not allow you to leave Nigeria. Kind words.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dr. Juno War. I'm the director of SPIDER. And SPIDER stands for Swedish Program for ICT in Developing Regions. And it seems like there is a nice pattern in the Nordic countries because the representatives today are from elsewhere. So I'm also a Kenyan by birth, but now representing Sweden. Briefly about SPIDER. SPIDER was formed by Swedish International Development Agency, SIDA, to promote the use of ICT for development. And this is also something unique about Sweden and Nordic countries. I think when it comes to ICT, they're always on the front foot. So in 2004, they already saw the need to form an organization that would strategically promote the use of ICT for development. So we've been in operation since 2004. We are based at Stockholm University, so we are a public organization centered at the university. And what we do, we work with our partners across Africa, Southeast Asia, and South America to promote access to the goods of ICT for those who are at risk of being left behind. So you won't find a lot of our projects in Lagos. You may find our projects maybe somewhere in Sokoto, and forgive my ignorance, Sokoto may not be any different from Lagos, but I'm just using it as an example. We tend to focus on the last mile, as we call it. And when it comes to education, we don't specifically focus on one level of education. We use ICT for skills and learning across different sectors. So for example, We use ICT to train healthcare workers. We use ICT to provide information for practicing clinicians through our partners. We use ICT to improve the capacity of libraries to be able to promote effective learning and teaching in the universities. We work across 3 different sectors: health, education, and transparency and accountability. Now, coming to Nigeria, we also have another program, which is also a learning and skills development program, but we work with the telecoms regulators. And what we do is that we are partnered with the Swedish Telecommunications Regulation Authority and partner countries like NCC in Nigeria, and we pair them and they learn skills, they share knowledge, and then we hope that our participants can come back and make a change. So I'll stop there. I think on a personal level, I've been a teacher before, that's why I found it easy to stand and talk. I normally find it difficult to sit and talk. And I also have children in the Swedish system, so I get the opportunity to compare how learning is in Sweden and where I grew up in Kenya, where it was the old school days of teacher and chalk. So I think I have a quite sufficient background that I look forward to engaging with you in some fruitful discussions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, for having you here. I mean, we met in the morning. I actually heard what you had to do to get here, so we're happy that you're here today with us. Last but not the least, from Ventures Platform, Mr. Obioro. I know you'll introduce yourself and tell us things about what Ventures Platform is currently engaging.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Awesome. Great. So, my name is Mimshak Obioha. I work with Ventures Platform. Basically, at Ventures Platform, I'm the director for partnerships. Ventures Platform is an organization that seeks to develop the digital ecosystem in Nigeria and thereby create jobs and create economic prosperity for Nigeria and the continent at large. And we do this through 3 main interventions. The first is we have a fund that basically invests in innovative products and solutions that are disrupting the way we do business and the way we live our lives. And through that, we've been able to invest in about 30 companies today, from fintech companies like Paystack to healthcare like Alliance HMO to education like ProTeach. And we basically invest across that value chain. Secondly, we have an amazing co-working and innovation hub in Abuja called Ventures Park that today takes about 150 people. It's made out of shipping containers. It's simply one of the most beautiful spaces that you would visit in the country. And so through that, we provide infrastructure, high-speed internet connectivity, power supply to entrepreneurs, and they can play very flexibly. And the third intervention is the foundation, Ventures Platform Foundation. And our job there basically is to build a digital economy and ecosystem, working with different partners such as the World Bank and the FID and the Finnish Embassy. And we design and organize different programs that build the capacity of first-time founders to innovate. So we do things like design thinking workshops, ideation boot camps, incubation and acceleration programs. We also work with the government to craft strategy and policy around the digital economy, just basically making sure that the regulations and the policies that are being created are fostering innovation rather than creating a hindrance to it. So our work basically spreads across the spectrum of innovation from investment, infrastructure to capacity building. And we've done some work with the Finnish embassy, working to teach high school children about how to code using amazing musical software. I think that was really, really good. So I'm going to be talking a lot about that experience and also just talking about our experience in working with innovators and entrepreneurs and teaching them how to innovate and create solutions to various problems. So I'm really glad to be here.
Thank you so much, Mr. Obioro. A round of applause for him too. So, I mean, today we've talked about innovation quite a bit, but I think in the context of learning, we haven't discussed that much yet. Let's go back the full cycle again, Mr. Bokani. How do you see the importance of innovation in learning and skills development in general?
Yeah, I guess the question has the answer and there is importance. That's why we have the question. So there is no doubt about that. But it's how is more important. How we can be able to get the innovations in learning, and that's the key crux of the story. I have been visiting many countries as a part of my job for studying the education models of different cities as well as countries, nations, states, and so on. One thing which I found amazing while working in Finland for the last 14 years is that the curriculum which is there, and this is the curriculum book, you can get it online for everyone. This is published by the Finnish National Board of Education. That curriculum is based on the skills itself. There is no content inside that. Second thing, you will not find a word called memorization in that. You will find word learning, thinking, learning to learn. These three words you will find it. And most importantly that you will find early childhood education and care. These three words, four words together. It's not only early childhood education, but also care connected with that. So it's a holistic view of development. And which starts, the innovation starts, the learning innovation starts at early childhood education in Finland. And that I have really observed through different ways. This is the one step that we have to take at a time. And the one thing which I really see that how we can be able to really implement this as an innovation part is the basic change in the curriculum. And curriculum, when I say, these are the learning outcomes and not the content. Content can be anything. For Nigeria, content will be different. For Finland, the content will be different. But when it comes to the skills, then you will find this curriculum book is more important. So that's the start on which I guess I can comment on.
Thank you so much for that answer. Then, moving to Hospet, I mean, you talk a lot about culture, it seems to come. Of course, nowadays, when you talk about culture, there seems to be a lot of, diffusion, and I think the borders are getting, the world is getting smaller, as they say. But how do you see, the process of innovation in your own field and in your consultations or seminars?
Well, to start with the observation that actually the world is not becoming any smaller, unfortunately not. We see more and more right-wing nationalism coming up. People become more native than they used to be because they're exposed to more and more new things. So the more we get connected, the more we get exposed to new things, and most people are scared of new things. Now, how do we combat that? How do we also in an organization foster an attitude towards that we never know enough. We're never ready. Now, there are certain countries that have cultures that are more naturally predisposed towards having a minority complex. And a minority complex is a very good thing to motivate you to learn, because then you can get better. Now, there are other cultures where people don't really have a minority complex, and I think some people in public are a good example of this. And they don't really offer a good role model for learning. Because if you already know the answer to everything, why would you learn? But coming back to culture, culture is about transmitting values of what do we hold dear. And in order to do that, we build systems, we build symbols, we build heroes, and we build rituals. The same in a company as in a country. So if I make that jump, who represents learning? It's the teachers. So if you start by not appreciating those that represent the value of learning, then you already from the get-go undermine learning and therefore innovation. So you need to really go back to basics.
Thank you so much for that answer. Spider, I mean, you guys have so many projects across, especially Africa. What I found out. How do you see, learning in your projects and innovation culture, your systems, so to speak?
Thank you. I will respond to that in two different ways. One, I think innovation and learning and skills development have become, the boundary is very minimal. So you can almost not differentiate where the boundary lies. They are fused. And the strength of that, from Spider perspective, is that innovation or technology or ICT, whatever you want to call it, provides an opportunity to include those who risk being left behind. So inclusion here is, if, for example, you compare Sweden or Finland and Nigeria, what he just talked about, a teacher in Lagos could access that and maybe get some of that knowledge that they can then use immediately. So that's the power of innovation in developing skills and promoting learning. If you look at some of the areas we work, for example, with refugees who have just been displaced, schools are banned, suddenly they're in the camp, the innovation, the technology gives opportunity for continuity. So they don't go into the camps and sit and idle, but we use technology to make sure that they continue learning. So from a Spider perspective, we strongly see innovation as a way of bridging the gap in skills across the lifespan of an individual, whether it's at kindergarten, whether it's at primary school or secondary school, even to an extent of professionals practicing. I'll give an example of highly respected professionals category in Africa, the doctors, very well respected in society, but in most cases, they have very limited resources compared to their counterparts in Sweden. So innovation then gives an opportunity. For example, a project we had in Kenya where we built digital health library, then they can get some of the reference materials that their colleagues in England are using. So you see that inclusion, narrowing the gap, innovation is making it possible. I would also maybe add that there's also a risk that innovation will also drive a wage in the society. And I would pick on the point you mentioned, where the nationalism is rising, and it's because of misinformation through the good tool that we rely on. And now we are hearing a lot of fake information and fake news. So it's about how we manage the tool we have, going back to your question of how to promote what we want to achieve, whether it's about promoting values, whether it's about including those who risk being left behind, whether it's about learning from across societies. So we have a platform, but the question is how we make use of it to get the goods that we want. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a very comprehensive answer. Mr. Obiova, I mean, you're preview to seeing companies build up, skills being developed. You've already been involved with some of the most innovative startups, I would say, especially in Nigeria. But how do you see the skills development and innovation colliding in your platform?
Okay, so the first, I'll like just start out with why innovation is very important in the first place. The world is changing, and it's changing far faster than we actually care to observe. I was sitting down and just thinking about, as a child growing up, the tools that I was privy to using, the television set that we had that had this huge back, the fact that we had no mobile phones and we had to queue up at the post office to get calls, and what we have now where it's almost impossible to drop our phones literally for 30 minutes. It's almost as though our whole life now works on the internet, which almost didn't matter some 15 years ago, right? And so that's the speed of change. But with the speed of change also comes an increase in challenges, because every time there is something new, there is a new challenge. And what that simply means is to be able to overcome those challenges needs new thinking. A very perfect example is a documentary I love to make reference to. It's The Men Who Built America. And in this documentary, John D. Rockefeller was mining crude oil and making kerosene. And for a huge part of his career, they were throwing this volatile liquid, which today we call gasoline. Literally throwing it away because it was a waste liquid. But then there was this other guy, Thomas Edison, was collaborating with JP Morgan to create electricity. And electricity was phasing out kerosene because you needed kerosene lamps powered by kerosene to light the city. But what happened was, literally, electricity would have run Rockefeller out of business. However, he found out that there was another liquid that was being wasted called gasoline, and gasoline was going to power engines, which was being made by Ford. So it's just the ability to constantly question everything. And this is one of the things we teach entrepreneurs through our programs, is the fact that this works. So it's called lateral thinking. The fact that this works doesn't mean you're fine. No, you have to constantly question, what better way can we do this? And this falls across literally every sector. And coming to education, Nigeria has a very high, or rather low literacy rate. We have a lot of kids that are out of school. We have a lot of people who are low income who can afford education. What this simply means is we need a solution that can scale. The solution is not to build a lot more thousands of schools in all the rural communities across the country. That's not the solution. The solution is some innovation that can leverage what already exists and make it better. So for us, it's constantly pushing people to think and to ask questions, and to think and to ask questions, and to question everything again. And like my colleague said, it's to learn and to learn to learn. It's to relearn, and sometimes it's actually to unlearn what you already know. And so for me, that's the role that it has to play, even in skills development. It's the skills that you're learning today will be obsolete in a couple of years. So I'll give an illustration at the end of this. So I studied architecture in university. And while in school, my first year, I was fortunate to be one of the people that got to go on an internship. And on that internship, I learned how to use computer-aided design. So there's this software called Revit. And as one of the first people to use this software, I came back to Scotland as a superstar because I was far ahead of my peers. This was 2009. By 2010, Revit had changed their software and had a whole new interface. I was stuck to the old interface, so I didn't change. I had a 2009 model on my laptop. By 2013, my classmates, who I was light years ahead, were doing far more amazing designs than I could do on my 09 software. And I realized quickly that if I didn't change, I would literally be phased out. So this is my challenge to everybody in the room. It's we asking ourselves constantly, what do we need to do to be better? And I think that basically is the hallmark of innovation. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the answer. I'm not going to let you go yet, exactly. You talked about lateral thinking. What other ways do you develop innovative learning or innovation in learning in your sense of the ventures platform? Or what do you see? What do you think about it?
So one of the things that we do beyond teaching people to build businesses is also giving people the required digital skills required to be able to do these things. And one of the things we've noticed is the amount of people, especially in the digital space, that have self-learned. So you see someone who says, I'm a computer programmer, I'm now a senior developer, and the person studied biochemistry in university. And you ask the person, how did you get into development? Did you go into school? And they say, no, I sat down at home and I learned by myself. I took a couple of courses on Coursera, I watched YouTube, and I got my hands dirty, I practiced on some projects, and today I'm a developer. And that's what we're beginning to see. We're seeing the way people learn is changing. It's beyond the four walls of the university, the four walls of the school. It's people being able to leverage the resources on the internet to be able to teach themselves. Now, what we're doing as an institution is how do we institutionalize that, and how do we make that available to more people? So one of the things we're thinking about is access. Is if people have access to a device and connectivity, and they're taught that this can actually give them access to education, that they will learn. And so point them in the right direction, give them access, is the way you have a child. Have you noticed, does anybody here have you seen a 2-year-old child that knows how to find the game on your iPad?
Of course.
How did they know that? Right? It's access. When we did the program with the Finnish embassy, it was amazing that by the end of the day, so it was a whole day workshop, by 3 p.m. that day, the kids were doing making amazing music, writing computer programs, and these were kids that literally, when they came at 8 a.m., we had to show them this is a mouse, and this is a keyboard. And when you press it here, it shows on the screen. Literally. By the end of the day, they were coding. And their teachers couldn't even understand a lot of the things we were saying. So for us, it's using new ways of learning to teach people and also changing the way we think about education. So if we give people access and we give people resources, I believe that people would people, because I just feel people have a hunger to be better. So if they know that, and they understand that this can make me better, that would lead them to learning. So what we're seeing in digital space is a lot more people are self-learning, a lot more people are joining communities where they can share, and that is almost becoming the new school, rather than just the four walls of school services.
Thank you so much for that answer. In Spider, you talk a lot about the last mile. How does the learning process look like in your organization? Or how is the feedback? And people call it maybe a feedback loop, but you always have to be innovative. Well, how do you learn from your projects that you do?
Thank you. That's very interesting. Just first of all, just follow up on what he said. I think what innovation has done to learning is it has made it portable, private, if you like. People don't have to sit in a classroom. They don't have to go to America. So that we just wanted to comment on that. That portability is the difference between this innovation we are talking about today and the agrarian revolution, for example. It's become very fashionable, very portable, very accessible. Now, talking about feedback, we use feedback through research. All the projects we support, we attach a local researcher from local universities in most cases, and they work with the implementing partner, and the researcher then talks to the beneficiaries. We don't like the word beneficiaries because it brings something like the waiting to benefit. But let's say stakeholders in the project, and through that we get research reports from our contracted researcher, who then also communicates the feedback to our project partners. So in some cases we get a proposal, we think it's brilliant, but before it starts we normally do a needs assessment through our local researchers, and that information sometimes is used to completely change the program. For example, in Nyagurusi refugee camp, when we got this fantastic proposal that we're going to use ICT to educate young people in the refugee camp, and they had proposed so many subjects, but then our researcher went to the ground and found out that actually some of the subjects could be covered on-site, and some that could not be covered on-site were excluded from the application. So that's one way of using feedback to inform our education and learning through ICT. But we also rely on partner reports, and then thirdly, we visit our project sites to see what is actually going on, and we talk to the stakeholders. And that's why we talk about this last mile, because we go to them. We don't just go to Kenya and sit in Nairobi and wait for reports. We go to the villages and see what people are doing, so that it can help us inform that particular project, but also help us to inform a similar project by a similar partner in another country. And the fourth thing we do with our work across universities is we do south-to-south collaboration. So for example, we work with a university in Bolivia, and we pair them with a university in Tanzania so that they meet and discuss among themselves. So the lessons in Bolivia in developing information management system is shared with the Tanzanians, and then vice versa. And then we also fund them to actually do cross-site visits, so they visit each other and learn. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that answer. Mr. Mokadi, I mean, you mentioned about there not being strict manuals or no memorization in the curriculum. I have to admit that I think I'm in your mailing list, and I get a lot of mail, but I usually open your mailing list. You have some of the most amazing teaching videos that I've ever seen. I mean, I don't remember school being that much fun. But maybe you can tell us a bit about, what is the innovation you see in learning, and how does that process work? I mean, you could almost call it evolution in some cases. Please go ahead.
Yeah, true. So, for that to understand how the innovation is happening in learning in Finland, to be specific, we have to understand how are the current kids are reacting. For example, he mentioned that 2-year-old kid, he can do everything on his own. But one thing which is required, and which is more required in the 21st century as well as 22nd century, is that to get a holistic picture, because we are now getting fed by the analytics based on your sensors. So you are getting only a chunk of information, and then the diversified view is not coming to you. So Finland understood this problem, and in 2012 itself, there were multiple programs which were done in Finland, and one of the programs in the change in the curriculum was called phenomenon-based learning. I guess many of you have heard a news that Finland has scrapped the subjects. So it's not true. It's an objective to go there. But what it means that instead of studying a subject, geography or mathematics separately, how we can correct the subjects and how we can create a holistic experience for a child to learn which is engaging, and more importantly, where he or she will be able to create something on his own. For example, this phenomenon-based learning can be one phenomenon. For example, in Finland, as of today, we have 20 hours of day. That means at night at 12 o'clock you can see sun. Is it a good phenomenon to understand? And if yes, then what you need? You don't need only geography. You need mathematics, you need geometrical shapes, you need language, you need ICT skills, so that instead of teaching one subject, for the same phenomenon, you can have 5 to 6 subjects can be interconnected. And that's the basic concept which starts with the phenomenon-based learning. Now, the baseline for this, it starts from again at the early childhood education, and it gradually goes up because it develops the critical thinking, creativity, communications, collaboration. All these things are a part of phenomenon-based learning program. And right now, Finland is in very early stage of doing all the changes. We started implementing it 2 years back, but still there are a lot of things to do in Finland. And the reason because for that, in Finland, the entrepreneurship is the real key story. If you remember, in 2011-12, once the Nokia almost about to get closed down, mainly devices business, there has been more than 35,000 people who were about to get unemployed. And this has a major change actually, because you have to create instead of one Nokia, as of today, there are thousands of small Nokias, and those are created by the startups, entrepreneurs. And this is the way in which it should go forward. Now, to understand the nation's need, you need to go back to the school to address the need. You can't come back after coming from the school and now we will learn new skills. It's not possible. And this is the basic line in which the phenomenon-based learning is working on.
Thank you so much. Then, at Hofstede Insight, I mean, well, you gladly mentioned about, I mean, in a way, the globe not getting smaller in some ways. And I think we've seen this, happen in history before. Of course, there's some elements like technology that was there not before. But from your work, I mean, they mentioned Nokia, and I know that you have a bit of background working with Nokia and other prominent companies. But how do you see the learning and the innovation around it, I mean, with your years in Hofstede?
So I would say that a lot of words are spent on talking about innovation. A lot of words are being spent on fancy words like agile and scrum and go on. I mean, 20 years ago, we called that three-month planning stage. So we just market concepts with new words. Learning is as old as mankind. What you can say, and has been said earlier today, is that because of more interconnectedness, as an organization, you need to be more and more adaptable. Because if you are like a Nokia 10 years back, and you specialize highly, and you do not have an open enough culture in your organization whereby you foster different views, different opinions, then at some point an apple comes and eats you. So what you can say is that the world is becoming more interconnected. With that, learning and understanding what might impact our business is becoming more important. And with that, you also need to make sure that as an organization, you foster enough diversity. And on diversity, I do not mean the visual diversity that most HR people check their boxes with. It's diversity in thought, it's diversity in action, and it's diversity in behavior that counts. And I think that's the one thing that we can see in most organizations, is that bit by bit, they start to learn that it's not the fastest species that survives, it's not the best, it's not the smartest, it's very simple, as Darwin said, the most adaptable species. So adaptation becomes a critical strategy for companies, for the smart ones anyways.
Thank you for that answer. I would like to go back to Mr. Owa from Spider. What do you think? I mean, you've been working in a Swedish organization for quite a bit, and like you said, you've kind of seen the learning experience and innovative experience from their perspective. What do you see? What things do you see that Africa in general, especially Nigeria, could take or learn from those situations? But also, I'm interested in hearing the other way around. I mean, what do you think that the Africans or the Nigerians, or in your case, the Kenyans, could bring to the Nordic system?
Thank you. I will try to answer the last one first, and then go to the first one. I think what we bring to the other system is huge diversity in our way of life, in what you call values. If you look at the value and the cultural exports that can come from Africa northwards, it's very diverse. Sweden is not monoculture, as we may think. For example, we have the Samay up in the north. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but the diversity there is not as huge as it is down here. And that brings us to the next comment. What can we bring? And the first thing we always bring is we complain about the challenge of working southwards. Because of the diversity, it's different in Nigeria, it's different in Kenya, and it's different in Tanzania. So I think from where I stand, having lived both worlds, I think one thing that we definitely need in Nigeria is what the ambassador mentioned earlier on. Super accessibility is important. For example, this morning at the airport, I was trying to complete my visa on arrival, but the internet wasn't working. So these ladies had to spend a lot of time to support me. Not to blame anybody, but just an example. If I go to maybe Helsinki or Stockholm, I don't even need to ask for internet access because there's something they call eduroam. So I move from one city to another, and the same login, this works because it's all networked through educational, what they call regional educational network. So access, I think, is something that we could improve, both in terms of physical access, but also in terms of affordability and the type of people that get to use some of these goods. I think the other thing that could be shared, if we call it sharing lessons. The appetite for technology is very high in Nordic countries. The public drives the demand, so the innovators have a waiting public to consume whatever they develop. And that is something that could be shared across education here, across business sector. Just, I think in the Nordic countries, if I talk Sweden particularly, there is a very high desire and willingness to use technology. We get irritated if we think of going to an ATM machine. And in fact, in Stockholm now, it will be very difficult if you visit Stockholm and you're expecting to get money from an ATM machine, because people just need technology. But they have even moved from that. They now use mobile money. So every technology that comes, there is that desire. And maybe if we go back to what was said in the morning about making people aware, but I don't know, I don't have answers, but we also need people to drive innovators, because innovation is about solving a problem. And if there's no direct problem to be solved, we can bring all the Ericssons and all the Nokias and all the spiders, but it still doesn't reach the public good that we aim to maybe achieve. And then lastly, I think everywhere, both north and south, the policies are always catching up with technology, with innovation, whether it's in education, in governance, everything. I'll give a good example of Airbnb. When it all started with this cool thing and people were using it, and then authorities started saying it's creating shortage of houses, it's increasing prices of accommodation, then now policy comes in. But the point here is that for the case of Nigeria or for Kenya or for many other countries like Cambodia where we work, it's taking a bit longer for the policies to catch up. And by the time they are ready to catch up, the innovation has jumped. It's something else. So you're spending a lot of time catching up, and by the time you do something, it's obsolete. So you have to start again. And I think that for me is a very big lesson. I think that my experience shows me that the innovation we talk about, if it's not harnessed on the day that it is relevant, then it's relevant the following day, no matter how much you spend developing it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that answer. Egbert at Hofstede, I mean, you are Dutch working in Finland for 13 years, if I remember correctly. First time in Nigeria. But when you look at the profile of Hofstede works with companies all around the world. And really the idea is to make people understand each other. You know, but from your experience, if you want to share some personal experience, you know, what have you learned as a Dutch working with the Finns and working in Finland and working across the world?
In general, don't judge. Like if you're exposed to something new, don't judge. Just understand. So yesterday we were doing a course and we had 22 people there, and quite a few of the people were business people that did business in Ghana. And they were saying that, yeah, Ghana, it's so much softer, more service-oriented, but also much more structured. But yeah, well, look at the numbers. Compare Ghana and Nigeria, you have your answer. There are different cultural trends that reinforce certain behavior. And the question is not whether that behavior is good or bad, it's just can you use it? So also maybe that is a Dutch characteristic, but we're quite utilitarian. But when you're confronted with different behavior, don't pass a moral judgment, but just reflect on it. Why might it be, and how can I use it as a source of good? So if people say Finns are silent, yes, they are, but they're thinking. Well, they're quiet. If people say Nigerians can be pushy, yes, because they've got so much energy, you want to keep moving. So we have different behaviors, and that's the beauty of the world we live in. So I think if there's one tip that I can give anybody that works across borders is just don't pass judgment. Understand why there are differences and how you can use them to improve whatever it is you want to improve, whether it's silence or energetic behavior.
Thank you so much for that answer. Mr. Kokani, you are kind of in the forefront of exporting say Finnish education, and I would like to hear your thoughts about, of course, working in different countries, working especially in Nigeria. What are your takeaways, and what have you also been able to kind of take away from Nigeria, back to Finland?
Sure. This is my third visit to Nigeria. I was here in 2017-18, and this is my third year. One thing which I really noticed, and this is one thing which is related to the culture actually, that's what is most important. Why Finland could be able to develop the education which is world known and it's very famous, the one reason for that, it's very much connected to the Finnish culture. If you take Finnish education out of Finland, you can't export it anywhere. You can't do it. The reason, because let's say for example, everyone knows there is a word quality called sisu. In Finland we call it as a perseverance, or making sure that something is right, you will do right, legally correct and everything, irrespective of whatever the others are saying, you will do it correctly. Because it's your conscience is more important than what others say. So that's a sisu. For example, if you go to USA, for example, it's a freedom. Freedom is the one part. When I visited Nigeria for the first time, one thing I saw here is that mainly in Lagos here, the people are amazing entrepreneurs. They are risk takers. You will not find this any kind of people. Simple, a taxi man, simple, when I just get an Uber, if you would like to get other services from him, he will do it for you, anything. Yes, true. In fact, you want to go to restaurant, they will do it. And this is the cultural part. And Nigeria should be able to use this in the education. So entrepreneurship should be the part of the education. Now, to enhance this point, I will give 2 points out of this. That's why actually I said the phenomenon-based learning was a requirement for that. So phenomenon-based learning, when it started a work back in Finland, it was required as the Finns are silent, and I guess that's one of the key secret of why the Finnish husbands are happy, and that's why Finland is happy city, maybe, is that for this phenomenon-based learning, you need to have connecting different people and making the teams, working in the teams and communicating. Now this is whenever we go to the schools in Finland, the teacher says is one of the difficult thing in this curriculum is that to make sure that the kids are talking to each other, and that's mainly about the high school. If you have it in the preschool or primary school, it's okay, kids will keep on talking. But if it comes to the high school, that's a challenge. So for this, the entrepreneurship within Nigeria should be used as a part of curriculum. Now for that, in Finland we have one program, and that's what CCE Finland is working for 4 different countries. And this should come from bottom to up, not top to bottom. What does this mean is that there is an academic and skills. There is a gap between academics and skills. So how we can be able to breach this gap is by really working on the real-time issues, real-time problems. In Finland, for last 19 years, most of our applied science universities have conducted one program in which the students, as a part of their academic part, starts the company. They run the company and they get academic credits for that. So we extended the same concept in different countries, mainly Nigeria. Now we are promoting it in India, in Taiwan, and in Finland. We have this cluster of 4 countries because 2 countries has a different problem and 2 countries has different problems, but we can learn from each other. What we are going to do, and it's a 2-year integrated program with your normal degree. You may be doing degree in commerce, science, or whatever, engineering. Along with that, for 2 years, you will start a company with your team members or with your students, and then you will get academic credits for that. And this is an integrated course. That's what we are launching, and we are looking for the partners from Nigeria for this part. And since this program is integrated across 4 countries, we will have a lot of problem sharings, solution sharings, as well as a lot of collaborations which can be able to work on that path. And if you would like to visit this kind of programs, please visit our website, ccfinland.org. You will find lot of amazing information about how we can be able to, as a country, how we can be able to solve the problem from bottom up. And that's the one thing. You have heard Slush. Slush is a startup event which happens in Finland. It is started by students and not by government. The students came together and said, okay, we want to make our startup as a movement, and that's what it started. Same thing, what we want is that college students should be the entrepreneurs, they will be able to develop this parts. That's the point.
Thank you so much for the answer. Last but not the least, Mr. Osinbajo, you've traveled quite a bit, worked also with some of the Nordic countries, and of course, I mean, the startup scene seems to be on everybody's lips nowadays. It's the
New buzzword.
a new buzzword, or the sexy foray of in the industry nowadays. But what do you see? What do you see? What in your years with Ventures Platform? How do you see the evolution? How do you see the learning? How do you see the innovation? And like you said, you've been a part of some of the success stories in the Nigerian startup scene. But what has changed, with time? And maybe, if you've had some experiences you've learned from your other counterparts.
So what has changed? Everything. Everything literally has changed. The Nigerian startup scene pretty much started with the e-commerce movement. I'm sure everybody knew about that. So Jumia, Konga, and all the other 200 e-commerce companies that were launched literally every day in Lagos. From those that were trying to sell sunglasses, to face caps, to t-shirts, and just name it. We had all the e-commerce companies. And then we quickly ran through that, and a lot of e-commerce companies started dying, and then we had a new revolution, the fintech revolution, which is where we are right now. And everybody's trying to create a solution around payments, savings, loans, insurance, and now, but the beauty of this is, the e-commerce revolution gave birth to the fintech revolution, because there was a big problem with payments. E-commerce companies wanted to sell, but they couldn't collect money. So how do I get the people I'm trying to sell to pay? And then fintech was born. Now fintech literally has facilitated and enabled every other sector. Because with the ability to pay, so I'll give an example. One of the companies we invested in is called Paystack. Now with Paystack, you as an individual right here in this room, in about 3 minutes, can set up an account and can create a link and can send it to the next person right beside you to send you payment. Now this wasn't possible some 5 years ago. Before now, you had to spend 6 months, 150,000 naira, and InterSwitch could literally say no to you at the end of the day. It was hell for a startup to try to collect money from anybody. So payments has now made it possible for other startups. We have a startup called Thrive Agri, who's helping smallholder farmers around rural communities to crowdsource funding from everyday people like you and I in big cities who want to be part of agriculture. And then gives you a return on your investment. So today, you can right here in this room, in 2 minutes, you can buy a farm somewhere in Borno or somewhere in Jos. And you can invest in that farm, and in 6 months, you can get a return on your investment. That's possible because now you can make payments, and because they can pay you back. So what we're seeing is companies are being layered on each other and providing more and more services. So what you're seeing today is creating what we call the infrastructure. And what is beautiful about Africa is we didn't have the opportunity to have the cable infrastructure or the analog infrastructure. So what we're doing is we're layering on the digital infrastructure. And what that also means is startups are building on startups. So Paystack today is powering about 70, I might be exaggerating, maybe 60% of most of the digital startups today. So imagine if that wasn't possible, all the people layering on top of them literally wouldn't be possible. And what we're seeing on top of that is more people are layering other startups on those startups. So basically, digital economy is forming building with layers. And this is the same thing that's happening with learning. Is the culture of you want to start a new company. The first thing we tell every startup that says, I want to do this, we say, go find out who has done it before. And every entrepreneur will tell you, nobody has. We are the first. We are the best. Nobody has thought about joining the microwave and the oven together. We are the first person to do it. So we said, great, you're joining the microwave and the grill together. Amazing. Can you go find out why the other microwaves failed and why the other grills failed? Because you're not the smartest person in the room, don't you think? So then, what we're now doing is forming a culture of learning from the failures of others, and then also learning from the failures of people who are not necessarily in your industry. So, yes, what I'm doing is food. It has to do with healthcare. Yes, we understand, but who are you trying to sell to? You're trying to sell to the same guy that the healthcare guy was trying to sell to. So why did the guy reject the healthcare guy's solution? Then, what we see now is people are getting more curious, and that's why I really love the phenomenon-based learning. It's mind-blowing, because what that does is, it makes curiosity happen. It means when something happens, the child comes in and is wondering, why are the flags moving? Phenomenal. Air is blowing. Great, at what speed? Velocity. Now you're talking about physics. And that curiosity just, it makes you question everything. And I feel like that's the hallmark of the startup ecosystem. So what we're seeing, like I said, if you're asking what is changing, literally everything is changing. Because people are building, and people are building on what other people are building, and more solutions are coming out. But what I think we want to see more of, just to add to your question, is a lot more solutions on the bottom of the pyramid. So just in case we have startups here. Everybody wants to build a solution for the city. Everybody wants to build solutions for Lagos, Abuja, and Port Harcourt, and maybe Kano. But nobody wants to build the solutions for Maiduguri. And maybe not Maiduguri, let's even go all the way down to Chibok. Nobody wants to build the solution for the creeks, right? Nobody wants to build a solution for, on Third Mainland Bridge, you have Makobo. So the question is, and this is what I try to promote everywhere I go, is to get more entrepreneurs to think about how to build solutions for the bottom of the pyramid. Now there's one set of companies that have figured this out. They are called FMCGs. They figured out that you have to make everything in 10 naira sachets to sell it in Nigeria. So we have pure water, we have milk, we have, and last one that blew my mind was Kellogg's has 50 naira cornflakes. Like, no way. Can we also do FMCG for technology? And that's the question I want to leave with everybody today. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the answer. Although I seem to love hearing my own voice, I'm going to turn into the audience now. Please, questions, and I would really like them to be questions. Let's start from the back. Please introduce yourself, the organization or company you represent, and then to the question. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tunji Anjoy, and I represent Panoramic. I have my colleague here, Rita Memanico, from Sunday Organ. So we have been talking about innovation and learning in Nigeria, and you guys also talk about literacy and culture. So Panoramic is a company that has created original Nigerian content. We've taken Nigeria's multifaceted history and developed it into modernized entertainment. What does that mean? We've created a line of historical comic books that I have here, and I'll share with the panelists, and we've turned it into comic book formats available in print and digital. So as I hand the mic over so the questions can keep moving and I pass the comic books to you guys, I want to know, since we're in the educational space, what can we do in terms of partnership with your four institutions with regards to support or funding and mentorship? Because money is not just enough. We need to know what we're doing right or what we're doing wrong.
Yeah, I guess this is really important. Thanks for sharing this your innovative approach towards understanding the culture as well as sharing the culture. We as a CCE Finland, we work with the various stakeholders from the different countries to develop the content which is very localized as well as which is very contextual. And I will give one example, same like this. For example, we work in India with government of Chhattisgarh. That state has 35% as a tribal population. Now they stay in forest and they don't be in the main city areas. But when we started working with the schools, the problems were totally amazing. Like for example, having a school continuously for 1 week was a challenge. Students were not coming, they were not interested, and schooling was a problem. And then, but all the kids were interested in forest. And in Finland, we have a concept of forest schools, where the kids are in the forest every day. Even it's a minus 30 degrees, they will be out in the forest. And they learn through the forest. So we use this method back in India there, and then we spread how we can be able to use the forest for learning, outdoor learning. That's what we started with. And then we realized that local community was having an amazing art, which is called as a Bastar art. And that was going down. In fact, it is getting smaller and smaller. So we planned that we use the Bastar art. They use the parch of the tree trunk for drawing. And they create a very good, amazing drawings for that. So we use their skills to develop the content like this for the history books, geography books for the grade 6 and 7. And we funded that program, and as of today, there are more than 500,000 copies are sold of that program in that state and as well as for the other states as well. So once we have a good innovative idea, the money is not a problem, and we will be more than happy to collaborate if we find this a pedagogical part of that. Second thing, which I will give the second part briefly, mainly for the early childhood education, we have a concept which is called aggregator as a Finnish preschool in a box. In Finland, once you get a baby, every mother will get a box at home. And that box has a very basic necessities to survive for the mother as well as for the kid for first 3, 4, 6 months. It is having some kind of a jackets, tutti and all these things are there. But we found that why not we have similar kind of box for the preschool teachers and parents, those who are homeschooling. So we have created a preschool box which is for age 3 to 6, and that has the activities, physical box you will get. It has a lot of activities, games, which are done in the Finnish schools, and those are pedagogically approved as well as they are working with the help of the university teachers and professors. They have worked on those ideas and activities. Now we are giving those boxes to worldwide. Now we need to contextualize those boxes for local need and culture, because Finnish education is not the parachute model that you put something as a parachute and it will work. We have to get from bottom-up approach. If you have anything like this, we'll be more than happy to integrate within our preschool box. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think, yeah, following up on that, I think was already mentioned, helping to understand what are the role models that will help you market reading. Who are the people that need to showcase to kids that reading is important? And that will be part of localizing such a box to the Nigerian context, because it might be different role models in different states of Nigeria. So that would be the one thing that we could assist with.
Okay, so I'll give you my card right after, and if you send me an email on mentoring, we could provide a lot of support to you on that. I think you'll find that you'll have a huge diasporan market for stuff like this. I have my aunties and uncles constantly asking for African storybooks and Nigerian stories to be sent. So I think you will be able to provide a lot of support in terms of mentoring that. And if we can find a way to digitize the solution, we can potentially also talk about investment as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's a very good point you mentioned there. And I was just going to mention the diaspora as a solution now, but I think I would also like to comment backwards. What we've learned working with partners on similar projects is that if you tailor it to the local needs, like he said, if you work with the local stakeholders and peg it on something that then can be used by the local educational system, then you are addressing a need that then the governments easily pick up. For example, we had a similar project in Cambodia, and now the government has bought it up and is rolling it out on all public schools. So maybe if you have future projects that you intend to do something like that, then it's also important to look at the local needs and see if you can peg it onto the local curriculum, as you say. And then if it can be digitalized, then you now have, today you address the need with the hard copies, but also you address the needs for tomorrow by making it digital. Thank you. In terms of support you can get from SPIDER, we can link you up with some of our partners that have done similar things, and they've managed to engage the government and get it rolled into schools.
Thank you for that answer. I will quickly take two questions. One here.
My name is Ajibal Tai from Alpha College and Associates. I have two straight questions, one for the first man on the right. I want to ask a question that why is it that when we have hubs or innovation center, we are always concentrating on the strong, not on the weak? Why always the strong? Why not the weak? Why is it that people, organizations that already done something on their own, they see the hard prospect they invest into? And that's why the systems always fail. You mentioned about the ecosystem fail and it's bringing the fintech, which is also virtually getting to fail. If you look at the statistics of the fintech solution companies in Nigeria today, compared to what we have in East Africa and M-Pesa, they are not making profits. So why do we keep on doing the same thing the wrong way and keep on getting the wrong answer? Are we on experiments or guinea pigs job? I want you to look at that. We need to help the weak, not the strong. Then secondly, why do we bring technology into an environment whereby we don't want to adapt with the cultural values? Why do we bring innovations that you took on the template of another society to adapt to our own society without going through the process? We tend to see that there's always going to be a conflict of intent. You want to make success, you just come, pick some few data and roll ground. And after some time, the team fails, you come back and go, no. How do we control these vectors and keep on coming? We need to stop. Because you that are going to come and big investment on technology, you want to make profit. And those who in the country want to make return on investment of achievements. So we really need to work together and sit down to say, what do the people want? And we'll harmonize technology to what people want to get the end result. So we need to look at this before we start doing things. I'm an engineer, I know about engineering, I know about technology, how it works. If you want it to really work, you have to adapt to local content, local elements to make it work.
So maybe we have the second question also, and then we can answer both questions at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Timak Domashula Isli. I'm here representing Hemla Gas and Oil, but I'm a professional composer. So my question goes to the software development. In 2009, I bought myself Sibelius, very sophisticated philharmonic composition software. The book to learn was the size of a Bible. It took me 6 months, hours and hours, because the advantage was when you score by hand, you cannot hear what you compose until you have an orchestra to play it. But in Sibelius, I can play back, hear what I'm doing, they're quite reasonable sound cards. Then came Sibelius 2, Sibelius 3. By the way, Sibelius 1 was about £1,500, so rather expensive software. Then came Sibelius 2, little corrections, little improvement. Then came Sibelius 3, again, new book, total change of everything. And when Sibelius 6 came up, I started to realize that this was a little bit a rip-off. You don't need to perfect what is perfected. And then came Sibelius 7 with artificial intelligence. That means if I compose my music, I can tell the computer to change it to the style of Vivaldi, or to the style of Bach, style of Mozart. And that became a joke to me, because I'm composing my music, I'm not composing Bach. So my actual question is, sometimes software companies, including Microsoft, they do things just to make money. They sell you something as the latest, and you actually gain nothing of it. Thank you.
Okay. I'm not sure what the question was, but it was a strong statement at least. I will answer the panel to allow the panel to answer the questions. Thank you.
So coming maybe to the topic in terms of, well, let's start with focus of the week. One thing that all the Nordics have in common is that their Gini coefficient is very, very minimal. Meaning everybody chips in a little, and by that everybody gets a lot. So if you want to, as a country, or for that matter even as a company, create a more equal distribution, then that's the principle. Everybody gives a little, everybody takes a lot. That's the very simple basic principle. If you talk about concept adaptation, yes, I mean, as a cultural specialist company, that is basically what we do, help companies with. The unfortunate trend is that most companies would rather centralize all of their marketing and product design because they think it's cheaper. Unfortunately, it's a cheap decision, which doesn't help them to really profit locally. And I don't mean profit in just terms of money. Of course, for commercial companies, that is important, but also profit from local knowledge, local history. So if you really are, as a company, a truly global company, then that is how you can test the companies. Do they adapt locally? If not, then they're not truly global. Then with regards to the company that I won't mention by name because it's also one of our clients, development versus money. I mean, any commercial company will obviously strive to make money, but it's also up to the consumers themselves to ask themselves the question, why would I buy another phone if I've only had my previous phone for a year? Because the camera is slightly better? Yeah, well, if the previous one is already good enough. So it's a consumer decision. Now, how can you protect consumers from consumerism? That basically goes back to basic education. Do you teach people that everything always needs to be better and needs to look fancier and bigger? Or do you teach people to be content with what they have? Just look at nature. Nothing ever grows forever. So it goes up with how do we raise our kids. That's the only protection against latent consumerism.
Okay, so with your question about why do all the innovation centers support the strong, right, versus the weak? In retrospect, right now you could make that assumption to say they only supported the strong people because now the startups are strong. But what you don't realize is where we met them. So on our website, if you go to the venture startup website, we say that we invest in people, and when we met them, there were just 2 guys or 2 ladies and a laptop. Literally. So I'll give an example of one of the companies I talked about earlier. Thrive Greek. 2 guys straight out of university. One of them fell so ill that he had to return to the village because people thought he was going to die. And while in the village, he started farming. And because he was educated, he realized that, well, I could do this farming on a much larger scale than these people here are doing it. But I don't have the capital to do that. So he said, okay, I have a bunch of classmates. Can I call them up and say, can you put up 50,000 naira? Can you put up 100,000 naira? I'll farm on your behalf, and then when I sell the produce, I'll give you some of the profit. That was the beginning of the business model called Thrive Agri, right? When they came to us, literally, like I said, 2 guys and a laptop. And today, they're doing billions of naira in revenue in less than 2 years of existence. So when you look at them now, you will say we supported the strong. But now let's go back to our thesis for investment. Who do we invest in? And we answer a couple of questions. The first question is, are you solving a problem? A lot of people think that their idea is the best next thing after sliced bread. We like to tell them that it's not about your idea, it's about the problem that you're trying to solve. So are you solving the problem? The second question we ask is the problem big enough? So it's fine for you to want to solve a Yaba problem or an Ikoyi problem. That's great. We wouldn't just give you our money. We want someone who's solving, on the worst case, a Pan-African problem. Best case, global problem. So we want to know what other markets face the same problem. Is this problem in Kenya? Is it in Tanzania? Is it in South Africa? Hell, is it in Europe? Is it in America? Is it in Asia? Finally, are you the best person to solve this problem? What does this mean? What link do you have to the problem? So if you say, I'm trying to solve a healthcare problem, but I have no background in healthcare. Your co-founders have no background in healthcare. Your advisors have no background in healthcare. You're not the best person to solve the healthcare problem. Sorry. Do you understand? So for example, this guy didn't study agriculture, but he's just spent 2 years in the village farming. He understands the pains of the farmers. So you understand? So one problem, is it big enough? Are you the best person to solve the problem? And then finally, which is the least question, is can we wrap a business model around this? And then we take you in and then we support you all through that wrap. But it would be wrong to say that we only support the strongest people. We actually support the best people. But the people that we believe will become the best at the end. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that answer. Just a quick comment. I think the question about the software also goes the other way around. In this case, it's an individual basis, and they feel they have boards and boards and boards until they realize that actually they don't need it. And if we flip it the other way around, from spider perspective, we have situations where, for example, a government department wants to buy this very sophisticated machine from Sweden, and because spider is Swedish, can you help? But if you ask them where the equipment is going to be put, it's going to be put in a building that is yet to be electrified. It's going to be put in a building that still has to be staffed. And by the time all those boxes are filled in, the equipment is obsolete. So I think it goes back to one of our core values and links to what you're saying. I think every technology should be needs-based. It doesn't have to be the latest iPhone. I remember last year we were working with a partner that they were still giving people the simplest phone possible. Just as long as the phone could receive a text message with the M-Pesa that the person had received money, that was it. And we have partners who are using tablets. So I think in each case, it's very, very important that innovation, whether it's in learning or healthcare or governance, it should be really needs-based. Otherwise, it doesn't matter if it's outdated or whatever, if it doesn't solve the particular needs.
Thank you so much. At this point, I know that there's questions, but that's what we have the B2B sessions for. I would like to thank all the panelists. Thank you. I think I personally learned a lot. Please, a round of applause to the panelists. And I'll invite back my colleague. Where is Antonia? So please, I think we can. Rounds of applause once again. Thank you so much.